All right, everyone, get ready because today we're going to dive into something kind of heavy. We're going to be talking about what if? Like, what if life is meaningless? It's a big question. And this deep dive is going to be a fun one. We'll be looking at this YouTube video, and it explores the good and the bad, the beauty and the ugliness of a meaningless life.
This topic is becoming more and more relevant, especially in the West. People are becoming less religious, and it's leading a lot of people to confront this idea of a meaningless existence head on. And I think that causes a lot of psychological discomfort. I think it's almost like we have this deep-seated need to create meaning, even when faced with the possibility of meaninglessness.
Yeah, for sure. And this video really gets at that tension, like that kind of anxiety you get when you think about like staring into the void. But then also that like weird sense of freedom you could get from letting go of all the answers that are given to us about the meaning of life.
Almost like you're given a blank canvas instead of one of those paint-by-number things.
Yeah.
Which I think is exciting for some people, but totally overwhelming for others.
So this video we're looking at today, it's called When Life is Meaningless and Why We Feel Worthless. And it really starts off strong. It paints this picture of Earth as this tiny dot, surrounded by all this blackness.
Yeah, that image really captures why this topic is so unsettling for so many people. It forces us to confront our own insignificance in the face of this massive indifferent universe. Like we suddenly realize that the stage we thought we were performing on is actually just a speck of dust.
That's pretty heavy. And this video really doesn't hold back. It contrasts people who feel crushed by this meaninglessness, the people who feel like their lives are worthless because they haven't found that big meaning. It contrasts them with the people who seem to have found it. Those lucky few who just have a sense of purpose, a reason for being.
I think what's interesting, though, is that the video doesn't judge either perspective. It just presents them as two sides of the same coin. Two different ways of reacting to this possibility that the universe might not have a plan for us.
Yeah, it kind of makes you think, where do I stand on this? How do I grapple with this idea of a meaningless existence?
Yeah, and maybe that lack of easy answers is the whole point.
Yeah.
Maybe the real question isn't, what is the meaning of life?
Mhm.
But instead, what does it mean to create meaning in a life that might not have any?
That's deep. It's like we shift from searching for meaning to making it ourselves.
Exactly. And to explore this idea, the video brings in the work of Albert Camus. He was a philosopher who spent a lot of time thinking about these questions. He had this concept of the absurd.
Okay, so the absurd. How does that play into all of this?
Well, basically, Camus argued that, humans want meaning so bad, but the universe doesn't care. We want purpose, we want significance, we want a reason to exist. But the universe, as far as we know, doesn't just give us those things.
So we're stuck, we're wired for meaning, but we live in a universe that doesn't care.
Exactly. And Camus says, instead of trying to force the universe to make sense, like through religion or ideology or any pre-packaged answer,
Yeah.
he said we should embrace the absurdity of it all.
Wait, so embracing meaninglessness is supposed to be good?
Well, it's a change of perspective.
Mm.
But it can be freeing. If you accept that there's no meaning, no cosmic script, then you're free to write your own story.
Okay, I think I'm starting to get it. But how does that work in the real world?
Well, that's what we'll talk about next time.
Mm-hmm.
Because this video gets really practical and gives us ways to think about meaning, even in a meaningless universe.
So we're saying the universe might not care about meaning. But that's not a bad thing, right? Maybe it gives us more freedom than we thought.
Yeah, and the video gets into the practical side of this, different types of meaning. Talks about the work of Irvin Yalom. He was a psychotherapist who helped people with these big questions. And he talks about cosmic meaning and terrestrial meaning.
Mm-hmm. Different types of meaning. I can relate to that. Sometimes I think about the big picture stuff, why are we here? What's the point of the universe? But then other times I'm just focused on my everyday life. Just connecting with people and enjoying the simple things.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Cosmic meaning is the big picture, our place in the universe and the ultimate purpose of everything. And I think religion tries to give us that sometimes.
Right, like a divine plan. But the video seems skeptical about whether that kind of meaning really exists.
Yeah, I think a lot of thinkers are skeptical of that. Maybe that cosmic meaning is just something we made up. Maybe we'll never have the answers to those big questions.
And that's tough for some people, right?
It can be. It can leave people feeling lost.
So if we let go of cosmic meaning, what's left? Is it all just about those everyday things, those terrestrial meanings?
Exactly. That's what the video argues. It's about finding purpose in our relationships, our work, our hobbies, just like you said. Creating meaning right here, right now, instead of searching for it in some grand plan.
So we get to write our own story.
Yeah, it's a powerful shift. We're not controlled by fate or something outside of us. We get to decide what matters.
I like that. But it makes me think about all the ways society tells us what a meaningful life is supposed to be.
Oh yeah, for sure. Society definitely has opinions about that.
Like just the other day, I was talking to a friend, and they were feeling down because they don't have like the perfect career, or the perfect family, all the things society says you should have to be happy.
Yeah, and that's the problem with those external measures of success. Like, what if we don't achieve those things? Or what if we do and we still feel empty?
So are you saying we should just ignore everything society says?
I think it's about being critical,
Yeah.
you know?
Mm.
Like, are these goals that I actually care about, or am I just chasing them because I think I should?
It's like choosing your own path instead of being forced down one.
Exactly. And the video wants us to be aware of that pressure. Like, we have the power to decide what success and fulfillment mean for us.
Okay, so we're creating our own meaning, but how do we do that? Does the video give us any guidance?
It does. And it's really interesting. It challenges this idea that meaning has to be this big, huge thing. Instead, it says meaning can come from those smaller moments in life.
Like finding the extraordinary in the ordinary.
Exactly. Like, don't wait for something big to happen. Look for meaning in the everyday things, the connections you make, the beauty around you.
Right, be present and be mindful.
Yeah, and it reminds us that we don't just receive meaning, we create it. Like it says, meaning is not to be found elsewhere than in our own imagination.
Wait, so meaning is all in our heads?
Well, it's a paradox. Meaning might start in our minds, but it has real consequences in the world. It affects our actions, our relationships, how we see the world.
So even if there's no universal meaning, the meaning we create still matters.
Exactly. It's powerful. We're not just getting meaning from the universe, we're making it. And that means we have to be thoughtful about the meaning we're creating.
This is blowing my mind. So we're not given a paint by numbers, we get a blank canvas.
And that can be scary, but it's also freeing.
We get to create something beautiful even if the world doesn't give us any guarantees.
That's where the beauty of meaninglessness comes in. It's not about giving up, it's about freedom and responsibility.
We've come a long way, from despair to empowerment. But what does embracing this freedom look like in practice? How do we actually live a meaningful life?
It's interesting how the video starts off talking about like despair and worthlessness,
Yeah.
but then it ends with this message of hope and empowerment.
Right, like it totally flips the script. Meaninglessness isn't something to be afraid of. It's like an opportunity to create yourself and live authentically.
Yeah, it's like we don't need validation from outside anymore. We get to design our own lives.
So just to recap, meaning isn't something we find out there, it's something we make. And when the universe might not have meaning, that's actually freeing.
Yeah, it brings back to that question you asked before. If meaning is subjective, is anything really meaningful? And I think the answer is yes. Even if meaning isn't like built into the universe, it's still real to us. You know, the things we care about, the connections we make, those are all meaningful.
I like that. Meaning might be something humans made up, but it still affects us.
Exactly. And I think the video gives us this really important question to think about. It asks, if we really embrace this freedom of meaninglessness, what could we create? Like, what would a life designed by you on your own terms look like? That's a question worth thinking about.
It is, and that's what we want you to think about today. If we really are in charge of our own meaning, what kind of stories will we tell? What impact will we have on the world? That's all for today's deep dive. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time for another exploration.